Welcome to my channel Secrets of the African Wilderness. In this channel I will introduce you to some of the wildest and most beautiful places in Africa. The purpose of the channel is to explore the secrets of the wilderness. Often these secrets are hidden in plain sight, but we do not notice them or fail to ask enough why questions. The focus of the channel is therefore not on the photography or on aerial shoots or on what I'm having for dinner. A trip without a story is not an adventure. An adventure strives towards discovery. It runs towards the unknown until the adventure becomes a story. Blouberg or Blue Mountain Nature Reserve, Limpopo Province, South Africa. This beautiful nature reserve should not be confused with Blouberg Strand in Cape Town. Why visit Blouberg? It's not the highest or the best known mountain in Africa. The reserve doesn't have the big five of animals, only Cape buffalo and leopards. Game viewing in the dense forested areas is at best average. But Blouberg offers a unique wilderness experience. Not only does it differ from some better known parks and reserves, but it also hides some secrets within its borders. You therefore must visit it, even if it's only by watching this video. Are you ready for an adventure? The first reason why it's worthwhile visiting Blouberg is because it's far from the madding crowd. Blouberg is a lesser known provincial reserve hidden in the northwestern corner of the Limpopo Province, not far from the Botswana border. Being relatively far from metropolitan areas, it's not overrun by tourists and many parts are accessible by 4x4 vehicle only. I know that many people go camping to socialize and to see what new camping equipment their neighbors acquired recently. I also realized that many campers are more concerned about the grass cover on the camping site and how smart the ablution block is than on the wilderness experience. There are many overcrowded resorts in Africa that will satisfy these needs. Blouberg Nature Reserve is not one of them. Almost 100 square kilometers or 60 square miles in size, it's big enough to let you get away from civilization. In character with its wilderness atmosphere, the campsite is unfenced, allowing giraffes and other wildlife to come and say good morning to you while you're having your first cup of coffee. Blouberg is not only a quiet and remote place in the bush, it also offers spectacular vistas. The central part of the reserve comprises a narrow mountain ridge that runs roughly in an east-west direction. At its highest, the mountain is slightly more than 2,000 meters or 6,500 feet above sea level. The mountainsides are hugged on both sides by high canopy forests, offering an exceptional experience. To the tree lover, it's heaven on earth. Driving slowly through these forests with the windows of your car open, you can listen to the sounds of the forest, smell the woods, and appreciate the many tall trees cramming the narrow tracks. Through the trees, an occasional glimpse of the towering mountain cliffs constantly reminds you that this reserve is something special. Burkia or wild syringa trees are especially common and each one is worth a painting in itself. Typically these trees have an umbrella-shaped canopy and a pleasing arrangement of forked branches beneath it. But don't let their good looks deceive you in thinking that's all there is to these trees. The local population in South Africa call Burkia trees trees of caterpillars. The trees are host to the caterpillars of the pallet emperor moth. During outbreaks of these caterpillars, they can quickly defoliate all the Burkia trees in an area. Like the better known Mupani worms, they are also considered a delicatessen and are harvested by the bagful. They are then roasted and dried as an extra source of protein. Just when you think you've seen everything, the forest reveals one of its secrets. An amazing bird peeks through the undergrowth of the forest, a crested guinea fowl. It's one of the darlings of bird lovers, not only because it scares, but also because it's such a handsome bird. With its punk hairstyle, or should I say feather style, and its deep red eyes, it immediately attracts attention. Blouberg is the most western distribution for these birds in South Africa. Crested guinea fowls are sociable ground birds occurring in small groups in the undergrowth of forests. One is almost certain to see giraffes in Blouberg. They're one of the most recognizable African mammals with their adorable faces. There are also a few other facts that make them particularly interesting. When giraffes give birth, the little one falls almost 2 meters or 6 feet to the ground. This fall is important because, like a good slap on the back, it opens up the lungs of the little ones. We all know that giraffes have the longest necks of all mammals, but how do they keep their heads aloft without getting tired? I mean, just look at your partner when he or she starts to fall asleep when you're driving on a long and boring road. Even with our short human necks, it's quite difficult to keep them from flopping all over the place. To counter this, giraffes have a long ligament running from the back of their necks to their tails. This helps them to hold up their necks and heads even when they're sleeping for short periods. It's a myth that giraffes are dumb and make no sounds, although it should be conceded that they're rather reticent in their verbal communications. If giraffes are not enough to make your visit enjoyable, there's more: flowers. Raisin bushes form dense stands on the borders of the forest, and during springtime these are covered in a profusion of bright yellow flowers. At least 9 different species of raisin bushes occur in Blouberg, but the grey raisin bush with its yellow flowers is by far the most widespread. In the fall, raisin bushes carry large numbers of berries that looks like raisins, hence its common name. These berries attract numerous birds, adding to the appeal of these bushes. Another attraction of the mountain forest is the bushbuck. The male bushbuck is quite handsome with its twisted sharp horns. As local people know, the usually unassuming and even friendly bushbuck ram is actually one of the most dangerous African animals when it is wounded. When wounded, it circles back on the hunter and attacks him with a vengeance. Small antelope like bushbuck have a special lifestyle known as small antelope syndrome. Due to the fast metabolism of small antelopes, they could quickly run into a calorie deficit or starve. For this reason, they have to select their food carefully and eat only the most nutritious tidbits. Highly nutritious food is, however, scarce. The last thing a small herbivore therefore needs is to have to compete with others for food. Out of necessity, small antelope therefore live solitary lives, or as a single pair, thus minimizing competition for food from others. Larger animals generally have slower metabolisms. They can therefore eat coarser, less nutritious food, which is more abundant. This allows them to aggregate in larger groups because competition for food is less. The wild fig forest on the northern side of the Blouberg mountain is extraordinary. A short hiking trail through the fig forest offers the hiker an almost fairyland experience. The grey-green stems of the sycamore figs with their huge buttress roots are something special. When these fig trees are fruiting, they carry massive amounts of fruit on the old stems of the tree. By the way, if you ever wondered if the current craze to eat flowers is a new fad, it's not. Humans have been eating flowers for thousands of years. The so-called fruit of a fig tree is actually a bunch of flowers turned outside in. When you break open a fig and look closely, you'll see the pink inside in fact consists of a large number of small flowers. That's why there's a small hole at the one end of the fig. That's to allow small wasps to enter the fig and pollinate the flowers inside. After a female wasp laid her eggs in a fig, she dies. When the next generation of wasps hatch inside the flower, the wingless males fight to the death for the opportunity to mate with the females inside the fig. The female wasps, which have wings, then exit the fig through the little hole, fly off and lay their eggs in another fig, and in this process pollinate the flowers. I'm sure you'll never again eat a fig before breaking it open to make sure there are no insects crawling around inside it. The abundance of figs in the forest attracts numerous colorful birds, offering a rewarding experience to bird lovers. Crested barbets are regularly seen in the forested areas. With their technicolor feather coats, they provide flashes of color beneath the canopy of the forest and are therefore also known as rainbow birds. These birds are often parasitized by honey-guide birds, which lay their eggs in the nests of the barbets. Green pigeons, also known as parrot pigeons, are arguably the most exquisite pigeons in Africa. With their parrot-like behavior, sometimes hanging upside down while feeding, and their emerald green color, they blend in almost perfectly with the leaves of the sycamore fig trees. They are therefore quite difficult to spot. Often one has to stand still for a while and scan the canopy before the movement of the pigeons attract your eyes. Green pigeons are sociable birds, mostly occurring in small groups, and have a distinctive wing beat, which is often the first indication that they are around. So you must look and listen before you're going to see them. Zebras, fondly known as pajama donkeys in Africa, are other favorites of tourists. Blouberg will therefore not disappoint zebra fans. Plain zebras, one of several species of zebra in Africa, is common in Blouberg. Although zebras may temporarily congregate in large herds, the fixed unit is a harem of mares, their foals, and one stallion. The optimum size for these harems varies, but is usually between 5 and 10 individuals depending on the habitat. When looking at a large gathering of zebras, it is therefore an interesting pastime to see if you can identify these smaller subgroups and count the number of individuals in each harem. Stallions are sometimes difficult to identify, but they have slightly thicker necks than mares, and the black stripe running from below their tails to their stomachs thinner than those of mares. Stallions are protectors of the group, and while on the move will usually be at the back of the group. Here they can keep a close eye on everybody and detect danger more easily. Zebras are not ruminants, that is, they don't chew their cud. They are hindgut fermenters like horses and rabbits. Instead of complex stomachs like ruminants, zebras have large sacs called cecums between their small and large intestines. In this cecum, grass is broken down or fermented by gut fauna, releasing the nutrients and large quantities of gas. We have now seen two tourist favorites, zebras and giraffe, wandered through deep forests, looked at flowers and colorful birds. But what about frogs? Yes, those slimy little critters are much more interesting than most people appreciate. And when visiting Blouberg during the wet season, you may just be lucky enough to see a chameleon frog. That's right, a frog that changes its color like a chameleon, but for entirely different reasons. They can change their color from grey, almost white, to dark brown, as you can see in these photos. Because these frogs live in relatively arid regions, their skins are drier than usual, and changing color reduces evaporation of water from their skins. I'm talking about the grey foam nest tree frogs. Foam nest frogs are arboreal or tree living, and their feet are specially adapted for climbing. The presence of grey foam nest tree frogs in the bush is easily detected because of their very visible and large foam nests hanging on branches over ponds. To protect their eggs, they lay them in these foam nests, which harden like candy floss. Later, when the tadpoles hatch, they drop out of the nest into the water. However, if the water level of the pond suddenly rises after good rains, or the foam nest was built too low, the frogs have a problem. Like in this video, terrapins, that is freshwater turtles, will reach up and feast on the nest with its eggs or tadpoles as if it was really candy floss. Blouberg not only consists of forest, however, it's the diversity of habitats which makes it so interesting. As one goes up the steep 4x4 route to the top of the mountain, the forest slowly gives way to open Afromontane grassland. Here you find proteas, mostly sugar bushes scattered among the grass. Although proteas are mostly associated with the fynbos floral kingdom of the Western Cape, a few species spill over into the interior of the continent where they grow on the higher mountains. When in season, proteas spoil you with a magnificent display of flowers. It's not an overstatement to say that protea flowers are some of the most spectacular flowers on earth. It's therefore always a good idea to stop for a moment at the protea flower and appreciate its beauty, as if for the first time. On the rocky mountainsides, klipspringers, meaning rock jumpers, often keep watch. These small antelope, like the mountain goats of the northern hemisphere, have specially adapted hooves to be able to jump around on rocks and steep slopes. The agility on rocks make it difficult for predators such as leopards to catch them. They therefore mostly choose a good lookout spot where they can easily spot approaching danger, such as leopards or large eagles. Klipspringer must count among some of the cutest antelope in Africa. Like bushbuck, klipspringer also have a small antelope lifestyle, occurring in pairs. A pair of klipspringer is seldom more than a few steps away from one another, and often lives on the same confined rocky outcrop for years. Klipspringer are independent from water. They have conspicuous suborbital glands below their eyes, which they use to scent mark their area. It's only when reaching the lookout on the top of the mountain that you can grasp the real grandeur of Blouberg. Here, a 180-degree view of the southeastern slopes and adjacent areas open before your eyes. When standing on the viewing platform, the Soutpansberg mountain range is visible towards the left. From here, one can appreciate the fact that Blouberg is a freestanding Inselberg or mountain island, separated from the Soutpansberg by a broad plain. Towards the south, the Brock River floodplain stretches out as far as the eye can see. Immediately below the mountain ridge, the southern plain of the reserve is visible, while farms and rural settlements can be seen in the distance. On the right-hand side, the Blouberg cliffs stretch out in the southwestern direction. It's on these cliffs that the next surprise is waiting. Griffins. Not the half lion, half eagle of myths, but Cape griffins or vultures. The largest breeding colony of Cape griffins in South Africa nest in Blouberg. On a warm day, one can see these vultures with their huge wingspans riding up on the warm air currents. On the northern side of the mountain is a vulture restaurant, which caters for some of the needs of the colony. Vultures need to swallow small bone fragments to address their calcium needs. This may become a problem when there are not enough hyenas in an area to crunch large bones into smaller pieces. At some of these vulture restaurants, conservationists therefore smash larger bones of carcasses into smaller pieces, helping the vultures to address their calcium needs. When coming down the mountain, no, I will not sing the song, and leaving the forested slopes behind you, more level and open plains appear north and south of the mountain range. These plains offer an altered landscape with different animals frequenting the area. Like in most game reserves in Africa, impala are common and often seen. During the rutting season in the early winter months, rams roar and dash around, chasing all other males out of their territory, while trying to keep the females as long as possible within their mating area. Impala synchronize their mating and lambing. This strategy ensures that predators are swamped by the large number of recently born lambs. By the time the predators are hungry again after their initial indulgence, the surviving lambs are already up and running, making it much more difficult to catch them. Like many other antelope, impala have loosely fitted lower incisor teeth that they use to comb out ticks and other ectoparasites from their coats. Even if no ticks are visible to the casual observer, impalas may be carrying a few thousand small larvae, nymphs and adult ticks. Baobab trees are called the old men of the bush. With their massive stems and great age, they are easy to identify. Unlike most other trees, baobabs can heal even extensive wounds inflicted on them by elephants when debarking them. Old scars are therefore visible on most trees. Baobab trees usually house a whole community of birds and animals. In their often hollow trunks, owls sometimes nest, while many other birds and small animals may be living in the crevices of the tree. Many legends surround these trees. In some cultures, it's believed that the first humans emerged from the hollow trunk of a baobab tree, while another legend asserts that no young baobab trees exist. This is because young baobab trees have simple leaves, in contrast to the digitally compound leaves of adult trees, making them difficult to identify as baobabs. Baobab trees could be regarded as one of the most remarkable and well-known trees in Africa, and you can see them right here in Blouberg Nature Reserve. Blouberg has a few hundred disease-free Cape buffaloes, but due to the dense bush they are not often seen. Buffaloes are widely distributed in Africa, but they could be troublesome animals. Not only are they extremely dangerous, something one would not guess when looking at the herd placidly grazing, but they are also the main carriers of diseases such as foot and mouth disease, corridor disease and bovine TB. Herds of disease-free buffaloes like in Blouberg are therefore sought after animals. Buffaloes are not territorial, they move around a lot and are very dependent upon water. Blouberg Nature Reserve is a little gem which offers a good wilderness experience and some welcome surprises. The diversity and beauty of its landscape will linger a long time in one's memory. If you enjoyed this video, make sure that you don't miss future videos by clicking the enroll button. Give the channel a thumbs up and share it with your friends. See you until next time when we can go on another adventure.